Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Let me know in the comments if the video and sound is all doing well. I'll leave it a couple of minutes to let people get in. Let us know where you're coming from. I can already see lots of friendly, familiar names and faces in the comments. So we've got Tony. Hey Tony, how are you doing? Jonathan Yardley as well. I hope I don't say this wrong, but I think it's Cloud Noel, who we've been chatting via email. We've got Jerry as well, Annette, loads of friendly faces. So today is all about bending. So this is the first of my Q&As where I'm going to try and focus on a specific topic. And I thought it'd be great to do that way, or to try at least, because then we're a bit more focused in terms of the questions, because I found the last one I was getting all sorts of questions on all sorts of topics, and it was like over here, over here, over here, over here. So I thought it'd be nice to focus in. So I've got some questions that have come in ahead of time, and I'll also try and answer as many as I can in the comments, obviously, as possible. It's free, obviously, to watch. If you can tip, a few dollars, a few quid, whatever your currency, there's a PayPal link in the description. I'd really appreciate that. But let's start by kind of defining bending, and then we'll look at some of the technique, and then lots of common problems, and hopefully address as many of those as possible. So when we're bending on the harmonica, what I'm talking about is basically changing the pitch of the notes that would naturally be available on the harmonica. So you're taking the notes the harmonica kind of wants to play, if you like, naturally plays, and you're changing those. So why might you change some of those notes? Because the notes that are on there are great. So why would you change them? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The harmonica has missing notes. So one of the reasons might be that you want to fill in those missing notes. Talking about a 10-hole diatonic harmonica, this is a special 20. There are notes missing, so you can actually fill in some of those notes with bending technique to kind of get those notes that wouldn't normally be there. But you can also use bending just as a way of adding texture or inflection to the already existing notes, so you can bend in and out of those notes, and we'll look at both of those types of bends tonight. So I call them inflective bending, that's the kind of textural stuff, and then melodic bending, so that means where you're adding in the missing notes, hence melody, because you're kind of filling in notes that wouldn't be kind of naturally there. So that's what bending is. But let's talk about how we might actually achieve a bend, because I've had loads of questions in the lead up to this about the technique itself. So for example, Leonardo emailed me and he said, I've tried loads of videos. He said he's tried it with closed captions in English and in Spanish, which I think is his native tongue, and he just can't seem to get it. I've played my harmonica without results, and it's been very frustrating. Okay, so I want to start with my basic technique for getting a bend. So I kind of think of it as split into three different aspects, and the last one is the most important. So we'll start with the mouth shape. So I'll take a C harmonica. At the start I was playing an A, but I'm going to take a C diatonic harmonica. This is a special 20. And I'm going to take the 4 draw. So I'm breathing on hole 4. And naturally, if you're a lip purser, and I hope to get on to tongue blocking a little bit towards the end, but if you're a lip purser, your natural shape should be a kind of a kind of like not too narrow, but just narrow enough to get the note. This is just your normal shape, not bending yet. So the first thing you have to do to start to get this bend going on is kind of go more into an ooh. And for that reason, I call it the kind of to ooh, because you're sort of an normally. I'm just going to go oh, oh. So really, it's just bringing in the side of the lips to a narrower shape, basically, to start with. That's what we're doing there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I call it slurp the air. Okay, so again, with your normal mouth shape, you would be trying to keep your kind of airway open, so the air's just coming in and out freely. And the reason is that gives you a nice, clean, clear note when you're not bending. When you bend, you actually want to start to kind of interrupt that. So we're going to go, it's kind of like slurping through a straw. Just a little bit of pressure. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to be, you know, you shouldn't be completely tense, but just that little. But then the last thing, and this is so important, and it's the most abstract in that you can't see it when someone's playing. Your tongue needs to move. So your tongue should be sitting free, just sitting relaxed in your mouth when you're playing normal notes. If this is the back of my tongue and this is the front, excuse me, when you bend, you need to kind of hump that up so that you create the kind of camel hump sort of shape. So it's kind of coming back and up. So the front is going to be kind of more down, and the middle and the back is going to be up here. Now, the exact positioning of that is going to be down to your own anatomy. You know, we're all slightly different, but it's coming back like that, and it's changing the angle of the air. Now, if you do all three of those together and you find the sweet spot combination of them, the note will start to move. So you can hear it. And that's our bend. Now, don't worry if you've tried this and it's not happening. This technique can take a long time to get used to. Mark Air says, hi Liam, up the cobblers. Yeah, so this doesn't always happen straight away. In fact, most people find they have to experiment. I want to recommend you try all the different keys of harmonicas you have, and I want you to try holes 1 to 6 draw. All of those holes. All of those draw notes will give you at least a sort of a bend. So try all of those holes on every harmonica you've got, combining those three techniques, and do it on slow motion. Okay, so don't try and get that note to move really quickly. I want you to really be conscious, mindful of what you're doing, because that's the only way you're going to know how to repeat that action and get it to turn into a muscle memory sort of thing. So really, really nice and slow. If you want a kind of possibly intuitive kind of way of thinking of it, and it works for me, it works for some people, it might not work for you. It's kind of like an inward whistle where you're lowering the pitch. So if you think of a normal whistle, most of us can whistle. If I want to lower that, then I'm kind of doing everything that I've just explained. If I do that on the in-breath, then I can do a draw bend with the same thing. So this is an inward whistle. Just the air's going in instead of out. And that will pretty much give me a draw bend. Obviously, you don't want to verbalize the note, it's just air, but basically that's what's going on. So that's the basic technique. So I just want to answer a question, a really interesting question that I got, and I actually got it a while ago. I got it for the last Q&A, but I wanted to save it for this one. So Bob Kessler emailed and said, I'm trying to figure out what's happening inside the harp when you bend a note. For example, is if you bend 4 draw, as we just have, does that alter the normal oscillation frequency of the draw reed to match the resonance of the mouth cavity, or does it beat the draw reed frequency against the corresponding blow reed frequency, or what? I realize I don't really need to know this in order to bend the note, but my Zen approach to playing wants me to understand what's going on inside the instrument. Okay, great question, Bob. So I just wanted to answer this quickly. I am very much an advocate of using your ears to understand things musically as much as possible. And I don't have a technician's sort of approach to things. I'm not a mechanic kind of mind. So this is as much as I understand it, although I might be slightly wrong here. As far as I understand it, all this changing of pressure and direction of the air means that you vibrate the blow and the draw reed together, and therefore you get a pitch which is between the two reeds. And that's why you can't bend a note lower than the lower of those two reeds, and you can't bend a note higher than the higher of those two reeds. You can overblow high notes, but that's a different technique. We're not going to look at that today. So the bend you get will always be between the pitch of the blow and the pitch of the draw reed. And that's why you can bend 1 to 6 draw downwards, because the draw reed is higher than the blow reed. But from hole 7 to 10, you can bend the blow reeds downwards because they are higher than the draw reeds. So there's that switch over. We will look a bit at blow bending if we get a chance. So we've had a question, I think it's Nidhish, in the live chat saying, does bending difficulty vary with different harmonicas? Say if you can bend in your special 20, can that mean you can bend any standard harmonica, or is it different in different 10-hole diatonics? Yeah, so there are, I mean, basically you get what you pay for. So someone else was asking this as well, to do with kind of what harmonica they had and whether they need to get another one. So basically, if you're using a really cheap harmonica, then it's going to make it really difficult. So yes, it's well worth buying a better harmonica. So just to give you an example, I've got here, this is a Harley Benton blues harp. Terrible harmonica, I have to say. They're like the cheapest thing you can buy on Thomann online. They're like really cheap harmonicas, £3 or something. And it's just really hard to bend. So it's hard to make any note sound good on it. It's really breathy. It's just horrible. So it's well worth getting a special 20, for example. But any harp that costs the equivalent of a special 20, a Marine Band or whatever, or other brands, Seidel, Suzuki, Lioska, anything that costs anything like a special 20 will bend fine. So anything above that limit, you're looking at, it's really about technique when it comes to whether you're getting the bend or not. I was trying to find another comment. I had another email from someone just asking about the kind of harmonica itself. I can't find it now, but a few people have asked about this kind of which harmonica. It's a personal thing. Some people prefer a certain brand or a certain make or model of that company. You might find that one bends easier than others. But I think you get used to what you've got. So you get used to the exact make and model you use, and then if you go to another one, it feels more difficult, even if it's not necessarily in the bigger scheme of things. So yeah, I think basically above a certain amount, get a decent harmonica, and you'll be fine. So that's the basic technique. I just wanted to run through that in case anyone was tuning in who hasn't played bends before, or it doesn't know what they sound like, or what the basic technique is. But let's look a little bit at this inflective versus melodic thing, because what I was just doing then was just trying to get the note to move. So there's actually a few steps that you want to go through in your the evolution of your bending technique. So the first step is what I just did. Get the note to move. Woohoo! We've got that sound. It's moving around. You know, that's great. But then the next step is to get that note to move as far as it will go. So I call this kind of bottoming out. So you're getting the whole of the harmonica to go as far as it will go. And that differs depending on which harmonica you're on. Sorry, which hole you're on. So hole 1 will go down a semitone, slightly more, you know, semitone, half step mean the same thing. 2 will go down 2 half steps. 3 will go down 3. See where we're going here? So you can get those 1, 2, and 3 go down 1, 2, and 3 half steps. Hole 4 only goes down a half step and is often the most easy one to get. Hole 6 is a half step, and hole 5, which I'm jumping back to now, is not really you can't use it as a melodic bend, okay? It's only an inflective bend because it only goes down a quarter tone. And the reason for that is the blow note is an E, 5 blow, and the draw note is an F. And they sit right next to each other in the Western musical scale, okay? So there's no missing note. There's no missing note to get between those. They're right up against each other. But that does mean you can kind of bend a little bit down between the two, but it's not a new melodic note. So the next step would be to kind of find those as low as they will go. And then you get to the serious phase where you're trying to work on melodic bends, where you're hitting each half step or semitone step bend, trying to hold those bends so that you can memorize that positioning. So you might go down to the second bend on 3, for example. And maybe try and bend down to it and then breathe intermittently. So you're getting that muscle memory. And then the final step is just practicing hitting those bends, as I call it, off the bat, straight off the bat. So I just go, you know, second bend on 3 and then second bend on 2. So it's a long process, working through those steps. And I'm going to talk about some exercises, some songs, but it is a long process. So Elizabeth Teddy Buell said by email, good nickname, Teddy, am I being slow by not being able to bend at 4 months of playing? It's just different for everyone. It is different for everyone. And the most important thing is to be conscious and mindful of your practice so that you are paying close attention to what you're doing at all times. And that's going to make a big difference to how you kind of improve. But there's no shame in this taking a long time. If you listen to experienced players, if you listen to professional harmonica players talk about bending, they will tell you that bending notes in tune, so melodic bends in tune, is one of the most difficult things you can do on the harmonica. So if you think of a piano, all the notes are there. They're just there. The harmonica, not only are they not there, you can't see what you're doing. It's all internal. It's a tricky technique. You know, people take the piss out of our instrument. You know, it's kind of considered a toy or a novelty instrument by most of the world. But it's difficult. So, you know, don't beat yourself up. So what else have we got in terms of questioning? Yeah, Cloud Noel says, still pondering how do you combine tongue blocking and bending. I will get onto that. Are certain brands better than others? Yeah, so I kind of said a bit about that. So paddling, is it Paddling 16 says, why do some players sound out of tune when they play? It sometimes sounds flat. Is it bad intonation while bending? Yeah, I mean, as I say, this is one of the most difficult things to do on the harmonica, and it's not an overnight skill. You know, this is I think getting the bends in tune is kind of a lifelong pursuit. But there are ways to practice those. So we will get onto some practice exercises and some learning tools as well. Yeah, we've got another question about tongue blocking bends. I will get onto that. See if I've missed anything else. Can't keep up with this. Someone says, I'm hoping you'll post this. The streaming's unreliable with my modem. Yeah, this will be available after, don't you worry. Yeah, Evan Davis. Hi, Evan. How are you doing? Says, why can't I bend my sidles? I think it's a personal thing. I think, you might have got used to a different harmonica and then move to your sidles and they're not happening. I find, for example, I find Lee Oscars very squeaky, but some people love them. I think, there's a personal element to all of this. What else have we got? Exact bending on hole 3. Yeah, we'll get to hole 3. So let's think about how we actually kind of refine these bends and what kind of practice exercises we can do. So when you're actually learning the bends, I think essentially that the first practice exercise is just that kind of bottoming out thing. So you'd, let me take my C harp so we're all together. You would just be taking each hole and trying to make it go down as far as it will go. So in order to do that, you need to know what notes you're aiming for. So that will depend on the key of the harmonica, but if you get a map of notes of the harmonica, I've got one with all the different keys of harmonica, which notes are there, then you can start to try and search for those notes. And in order to do that, you will need a reference point. So I've had, I think it's Pau by email, Pau Cisternas, by email saying, I can't do bending. Could you please provide some exercises or routines for a daily practice to have a progressive understanding of bending and finally dominate it? Good luck. And Larry also said, how do you hold and sustain the draw bend for a time without it being wobbly, and also how do you move from say a 5 blow to bending a 3 draw? Yeah, so first off, you're going to need a reference point, and I think it's so important to use your ears as much as possible. But there are some tools that can kind of help you. So one of them is the bendometer or the bendometer, which is a program you can get for your computer, or I think they have an app now. I don't know if they have a iPhone and Android. I'm not sure because I don't use it, but I have used it in the past. Someone can say in the chat probably. But that shows you a visual representation of the harmonica, and it will show you when the note is bending up or down, so you can kind of aim for the bend you want to aim for, and you can select the key of harmonica you're on, so it doesn't matter which harp you use. So that will give you a visual cue, but I think more important is to use your ears to have that kind of aural sort of cue rather than the visual cue, because music's all about sound, and you don't just want to rely on seeing something. So you can do that various ways. You could, as long as you know what note you're aiming for, you could check that on another instrument or another harmonica. So let's say I'm trying to get the 2 draw to go down as far as it will go. It will go down from a G on a C harmonica. It'll go down from a G to an F. It'll go slightly flat of that F, but it'll go to the F. So if I've got an F harmonica, I can check my F note on that harmonica, or any other key that has an F harmonica, an F note on it, and then I can play it. I can go back and forth and aim for that. So if I grab an F, so I know I'm aiming for that. It's my 1 blow on my F harmonica, or it's my full bend on 2 draw on the C harmonica. You can do that with any key of any note on the harmonica, as long as you've got the right combination of notes and you know what you're looking for. At this point in your playing, if you're getting into bending, you will find it a real asset if you know what those notes you're looking for are. you know where those notes are on the harmonica, the note layout of the instrument. I'll just get this off my notice board so I can show you this. It's worth me bothering to, it's got pins all in it. But it's worth me getting this off to show you. This is a note layout for every key of harmonica. And these are available on the internet. This is my own one that I made up myself. I can email it to you if you want a copy. Members of my website will find it in the resources. Come on. So this shows you all of the notes on all of the keys of harmonica. These are the draw bends down here. They're the blow bends, they're the overblows, they're the overdraws. And they're the normal draw notes, they're the normal blow notes. So if I'm looking on my C harmonica, I know that it's an F I'm looking for on hole 2, that bottom note. It'd be an A flat on hole 3. So you can kind of use this visual guide. But once you've learned where those notes are, you need to check whether you're playing them in tune. So that's why you need that kind of with your ears to check it. A really good tuner app that I've found recently, thanks to Dennis Grunling, is it is called, let me check the name of it if I can find it. Yeah, it's got a weird name. So it's called iStrobosoft, something strange like that. iStrobosoft. I'll send an email out tomorrow with anything that I kind of mentioned. But I've got it on my phone here, a little app. I think it costs $10 or something. You can see it jumping around. It's so sensitive, and that's why I love it, because it's like it takes no prisoners. It's gonna find you out if your bends aren't in tune. And mine are never in tune on this, like not to the precision that I want them. So that was flat. That was quite flat. That was like 20 cents flat. So you're trying to get that to 0, absolutely on 0. But good luck to you. And this is what I mean by it being one of the most difficult techniques to get those notes in tune every single time, so that they can be used as melodic notes. But you can use any chromatic tuner, physical one. You can Google chromatic tuner. There's loads of free ones, websites now, apps. It's great having it on your phone. Any chromatic tuner, it has to be chromatic rather than like a guitar tuner, because it has to be able to pick up every single note. So it has to be, capable of that, because we're searching for these chromatic pitches now. We've gone beyond the diatonic scale. But yeah, that's a good one, the iStrobosoft one, in terms of learning tools. So Ernie Brennick by email said, how do you know if an attempted bend is unsuccessful, if it's half bend or if it's full bend? And Frida Johnson also said, how do I know if my bend is the correct note or sound? So that's exactly what I'm aiming at here with this reference point, because you're unless you've got perfect pitch, you're not going to know. You're not going to know unless you have some way of checking that note. And the best way is to use your ears, as I say. And there are so many tools available now for basically using a tuner, so you can check those. Let's see what else we've got in the comments. So we've got a comment from Repco saying, have you ever played the Big River Harp series from Hohner, and if so, how do you like it? I got the series and started learning the harmonica a month ago. Yeah, I mean, I've played Big Rivers and they're okay. I played Big Rivers for a while when I was beginning. I mean, they're okay and they bend okay. If you pay that little bit more, the bends will probably be slightly easier. Annette Rubery says Bend It Better tool is pretty good. I've not tried that one, so I'll have to check that out. Jerry Guy says the bendometer or the bendometer was on iPhone library, but it's gone now. Oh, that's a shame. I think you can still get the desktop version, but as I say, I'm a visual learner. I'll admit to that. But I think music is not a visual thing. At least what we're trying to produce with music is not visual. So the more you can learn with your ears, the better. Anyway. Okay. So exercises. Yeah. So when you're starting out, it's just a case of trying to get those to go down, slowly go through those motions to try and bottom out those notes. And then, as long as you know which notes you're aiming at, you can start to slowly go down and stop at a specific note. So on the 3 draw, for example, if I get this map out again, the 3 draw, the natural note is a B. So the first bend would be a B flat, and then an A, and then an A flat. So let's say we're trying to get that first one. I'd have my tuner ready, and I'd bend down, and when I get to the B flat, I'm trying to hold it there, and I'm trying to be focused on that note and the shape I'm making to get that note. And then the next step would be, of course, trying to hit those notes as melodic notes. But there are a few little things you can do. So one of the things I like to do to practice my bends is a strange little exercise where you go 1, 2, 3, 4 blow, and then I'm going to try and move those notes up a half step, a semitone, and that means I've got to play the 1 draw bend, the 2 draw full step bend, the 3 draw lowest bend on the 3, so that's a tone and a half, step and a half, and then the 4 draw bend. So, and then you can move up again. So you go 1 draw natural, 2 draw half step bend, 3 draw full step bend, and 4 draw natural. So you go. You can go back down. And then you can play around with jumping between those. So that was 1, 3, 2, 4. And start to play around with those. But the fun stuff happens when you start trying to play songs. So you can take a song you know and add inflective bends to it, or you can pick a tune that kind of suits your level of bending, wherever you're at. So one of the first songs you might try, I'm going to mention 3 songs now of increasing difficulty, and I have free tabs for them and free lessons for them as well. So you can search YouTube and find my lessons, and there's also links in the descriptions of those lessons to my website where you can download the tabs free. So I won't tell you the tab, but a good one for practicing those first steps with your bends, where you're just trying to play inflective bends, kind of in and out of natural notes, would be Amazing Grace. So. Kind of just putting in little inflective bends as and when. So I'm talking here about you bend in or out of a note. So bending out of a note is easier because that's like your practice exercise, just trying to make the note move. Bending into a bend is where you start, it's kind of sometimes called a scoop, where you start with a bit of a bend and just release it. So it's kind of a dwa. And Amazing Grace is a really good way to do that. That's a 3 draw, still on a C harp. And that just gives it life instead of. you know, you're going dwam. So that's a good place to start for just trying to get some sort of bend into your playing. And then once you're starting to look at melodic bends, so using these new tones that are available as part of a melody, something like When the Saints Go Marching in the lower octave is a good one. So that uses the full step bend on hold 2, and it's just a great way of practicing putting that note into the melody, because without it, there's that note missing. Da, 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 da. And then if you want to really push yourself, you could start playing something that's basically just getting more chromatic, so getting more chromaticism into the song, more kind of tricky notes. Pink Panther theme is a good one. So I've got a YouTube lesson on it. And it uses loads of bends. It's really tricky. So you've got so you're going bend on 1 and then bend on 2, and then yeah, I mean, it uses the bend on 1, the full bend on 2, and all 3 bends on 3, just in those 2 lines. Like it's a bitch. It's really nasty. So yeah, that's a good one if you're really pushing your playing, really pushing your playing, and you want to kind of work on just kind of getting that range of notes as melodic notes. But you have to pick a song that's right for your level. So there isn't a perfect song, it's about your level. So that's, I mean, if you're kind of working on going through the levels of your practice, let's go on to some common problems. So I've got lots of emails and messages and stuff about common problems with playing. So Scott has said, he's emailed me. Oh, it was Scott who was asking about the blues bender budget harmonica. Yeah, see, if you're using a budget harmonica, it's going to be much harder. So he said I run 10K and I do half marathons. I find it easier than bending notes. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. Yeah, get rid of your blues bender. Get a special 20. So Andy Brown says, I'm fine with bending on all notes apart from hold 3. I can get a full 1.5 bend and a blue third, but that note in between just doesn't want to do it. Okay, so I think someone was asking in the chat as well about the hold 3. It's so difficult. It's really difficult to play those notes in tune. And what I will say is that each step along the way, you have to take stock, kind of look around and adapt to where you are in terms of your playing. So, you know, when you first start playing bends, that hold 3, it feels like you're having to absolutely dig in to make that note move at all. It's like heavy weightlifting. But then as your playing improves and you can kind of get the lowest bend, you can really push that down, bottom out that note. Then that first bend feels really sensitive. It's kind of like all you have to do is, and that 3 draw will. So you have to recalibrate. You have to slow down and do everything on slow motion and really be conscious of those positions, the shapes and the tension involved. The slightest change and you'll lose the bend. So we're really talking about precision here. And I'll reiterate, this stuff is really hard and it's invisible. So only you can improve your playing, when it comes to this sort of level, because you're the only one who can feel what's going on, and you need to get that muscle memory. So if the middle bend isn't quite working, you've got to slow down that movement. You've got to try consciously moving from the first bend to the bottom bend and stopping between the two. Because if you can't do that and you can't find that and hold that bend, you're definitely not going to find it and hold it and use it in the context of a song. Steve has asked on Facebook, how do you refine your bending? I can bend, but when I play a song, there's a 50-50 chance I'll hit the bend or not. I practice my bending almost every day. Yeah, I mean, again, the bigger picture is that this is such a difficult technique. People are still working on it years and years after they started. My bending isn't perfect, and it never will be, but I still practice it as much as possible. So don't beat yourself up, Steve. But in terms of that refining, it's that step from kind of just moving the note down and finding how far it will go, and then picking each semitone, practicing it with a tuner. It's a long process. I'm tempted to say it's lifelong. This is a good question. So Lisa Pressland has said on Facebook, my bends can be the right pitch, but a bit growly sounding. Why is this happening? And then also, does it just take tons of practice to go from, say, a 3 full bend to a 2 draw without also bending the 2? I struggle to do this cleanly. Yeah, so let's talk about that first part of your question, Lisa. So the growly thing, I think that we all struggle with the tone on our bends. If you're playing a really slow melodic tune, but there's a melodic bend in it, it's really difficult to get that to sound nice and beautiful. So if you're playing, I'm going to show myself up here. If you're playing Summertime, it's really hard to make that note not like stand out like a sore thumb. I mean, you can try and stop it being a, but it's a case of trying to whisper that bend. You actually have to, often you have to think that note is more sensitive than the others, so I need to be softer on it. So you might think you should have a constant air pressure almost, but actually on certain notes you have to be more tentative, more sensitive with them, and the bends are like that. So yeah, that is a case of I'm having to try and whisper that note just so it doesn't come out like a foghorn. And the other thing is I might cup it just to mute it even more. But this isn't easy. I'm not the best in the world at this by any means, but even the best people out there are working on this stuff constantly. The harmonica doesn't want to play these notes, okay? It's awesome that we can play them, but it doesn't want to play them. You're forcing it to do stuff that it doesn't want to do. So we've got to respect the time that's going to take, and work through these things slow and methodically. But basically, Lisa, you're not alone. We're all going through that. What other questions have we got in the chat then? See if I've missed anything. So Unruly Arcana says, after far too long, I can now draw bend on hole 1 on a C harp. I literally can only bend the one down the hole. Any advice on the others? Yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the different keys. So the technique applies across the board, but the lower harps will generally require a bigger cavity to get these low notes, and the higher harps won't require as big a cavity. That means some people will find the lower ones easier, some people find the higher ones easier. Some people, there's like a sweet spot in the middle that they find. But as you get to the higher ones, you'll find it feeling more towards the front and less big and deep. And then the lower ones, you'll feel it's big kind of big shape. And then if you go to the specially tuned low harps, it's like it's really difficult. So yeah, they're all different, and they all take a slight alteration of that technique. You know, the devil is in the detail with this stuff. Darren Perkins says, how much practice should a beginner do a week to improve? I mean, in terms of bending, well, in terms of anything, it's little and often. So, you know, try these things for a couple of minutes each day. Don't get bogged down doing hours and hours. It's going to put you off, to be honest. Andy Brown says, do re mi from the show. And then different variations. You know, that's that kind of adding a kind of pattern to the scale. Jerry says, what's the easiest harp to blow bend, low or high? Let's get on to blow bends. So I've talked about draw bends up to this point, and I've said holes 1 to 6 will draw bend, but holes 7 to 10 will blow bend. I'm going to pick up an A harp, so this might answer your question, Jerry. I think the lower harps are easier to blow bend, and they sound better for the blow bends. I think a C harp is really getting squeaky, really getting squeaky. So I think you want to go to the lower harps. I think A harp is really nice for blow bends. But let me just show you what we can blow bend. So I'll just show you. I'm showing you the C harp, but it would be just the equivalent notes. So where am I aiming? So we've got on hole 7. There isn't really a bend on hole 7. It's like hole 5 draw, so it'll give you like a micro bend. But 8 blow, you can get a semitone. 9 blow, you can get a semitone, and 10 blow, you can see that you can get two semitones. So it's like the 2 draw, because you've got 2 extra notes. In case you're wondering, the technique, the whole idea is the same as the draw bends. All the things I talked about. The difference is in the degree, the kind of exaggeration or the kind of diminished version of what we're doing. So with the lower notes, the lower harps and the lower bends on the lower harps, as I say, it's like heavy weightlifting. The higher ones, the technique's still the same, but I feel, obviously I'm on a blow note, I'm not on a draw note, but I feel like it's kind of towards the front. So feels like there's more work going on here. Rather than it feeling further back, but it is the same technique going on. I'm still R to oo, I'm still slurping that air. It's just kind of an outward slurp, if you like, and I'm still moving the tongue. It's just it's all compressed with those higher notes. Even on the lower harmonicas, those higher notes, they feel compressed. But for your ears and for your neighbors, and so the dogs don't bark in the local area, try a lower harmonica. You know, the higher ones, they get really squeaky. I mean, that was an 8 blow on an A harp, and I think that's louder, high enough. So yeah, don't go higher than that. So what have we got? Yeah, so Wendy Cooney said on Facebook, bending on their own is okay, but how do you make them smooth, controlled in a melody? It's all about slowing it down. I mean, I say this again and again and again, but of course you're not going to be able to play it in a set melody if you haven't played it in kind of practice exercises as a melodic note. So that kind of do re mi, the major scale in the bottom octave, is a good example of it. If you can't play those as practice exercises, you're not going to be able to pull out that note as a melodic note in a song. And if you haven't practiced that muscle memory of moving down to the bend and then repeatedly playing it, again, you're not going to be able to play it in a song. So John Trainer, good old friend John Trainer, says, I recently started working on Got My Mojo working from the tab on my website. With all the draw notes, especially the two-draw full-step bend and the semi-brisk tempo of the song, I'm having a hard time getting air out and I'm over-inflating. Is there something other than just light breath force I should be trying? I mean, it is all down to breath control, as so much in harmonica is. But again, you have to be so confident with those bends that when you go for them, you don't overforce them. So I saw it was a tennis video I saw the other day. A friend of mine does YouTube tennis videos, and in this video he was saying that, say you're going for a backhand and you're not confident with that backhand, what you tend to do is tense up. So when our skill level isn't where we want it to be for a certain technique, we tend to tense up. And that's not just with the big physical activity like tennis, you know, in case you didn't know what tennis players did. It's everything we do, and we're just doing that on a smaller scale here. So if you're not really confident with that bend, that two-draw full-step bend, every time you go for it, you're going to be tensed up. And that means you're going to run out of air because you're going to force the air too much. So it's not just a case of knowing you need to breathe gently. It's actually making sure that your technique is so good that you're not tempted to force the air because your skill level isn't there. So we've got a couple more questions, I think, that came in by email, and then I'll wrap up with anything else in the chat. So Peter Brown in New Zealand said by email, I've been regularly practicing bending, mainly on a C harp, for at least 18 months. I use a tuner app to guide my efforts. I've watched loads of videos. I can, while I can bend all the bendable draw notes to some extent, in most cases I can't get down to the pitch I want, e.g. on a C harp hole 2 full step bend. On hole 3 I can get an A, but when using it in a tune, e.g. Danny Boy, another good example of a tune to use, the sound greats, and so it goes on. Yeah, I mean, again, this is kind of a combination of several of the other things I've talked about. So it's going to be partially this tensing up in the context of a tune. It could be the different keys of harps you're using. You're going to find one or another more or less difficult. But most of the time, the most important thing is people rushing through these things. So in your practice, it shouldn't sound like this. It should be... you know, going as slowly as you can to try and get down to that pitch, because otherwise you're not going to get that muscle memory. So one more email that we had was Tom Green was asking about the jingle, if you like, from my website. So that's the and he was saying, he was asked me some questions about that. So the second note, the bend there, he says, you seem to be doing something more than just the bend before you hit the 3-draw. I'm not, it's just a 4-draw bend. And then blending in, yeah, so this is a good thing to mention, actually. So blending another note into a bend. So for example, so that's like a 3 and a 4 draw, both bent a little bit. At the same time, a double stop with a bend. It's not an exact science, but essentially you have to be, again, so comfortable with the single note bends that you can then just broaden your mouth and kind of fatten that out a bit. I mean, it's not if you've learned the bending technique, it's not that difficult to then apply it to a double stop. It's probably if you're finding the double stop bend difficult that your bending technique isn't that good to begin with, or you're not that confident with it to begin with. And that applies to tongue blocking as well. So we've had loads of questions about tongue blocking. I'll just briefly say, to use another sports analogy, these are very British sports analogies. I'm sorry to everyone else around the world, but snooker, if you think of snooker, if you've got the cue and you're aiming to hit the ball across the table, right? Sometimes they say in the commentary, oh, that's really hampered cueing. So what that means is if there's loads of balls in the way of the ball they're trying to hit, they sometimes have to kind of lean over like that, or actually use a piece of equipment to kind of reach the ball. Tongue block bending is a bit like hampered cueing. The technique is still the same. The difference is, of course, the harmonica, or the tongue rather, is on the harmonica already. The tongue is already on there blocking out notes. So when we talk about this kind of pull back and up, it's more like it's kind of awkward sort of, it's already on there, and then you're trying to kind of change that shape, hump it up, but still keep the harmonica, the tongue on the harmonica. But the technique itself is still the same. So I've got to the point where I'm comfortable with the draw bends tongue blocked. My blow bends are still really bad tongue blocked, but that's only because I started as a lip purser. So if you've started as a tongue blocker, you probably won't find it any more difficult. The thing is, if you started as a lip purser, you're going to have to think of yourself as a beginner again. This is the same with all tongue blocking techniques. If you've learned something lip pursed to then learn it tongue blocked, you're going to feel like, this is so difficult. You're a beginner again. In the world of tongue blocking, you're a beginner again. So that's something to really bear in mind. I am planning, I've actually just recorded a full course on tongue blocking. So I will obviously let everyone know when that's out. I'll be doing some emails out about that, and we'll look at bending in that. I'm also planning a full course on bending itself. So there will be discussion of tongue blocking in that bending course. So this year is a year of kind of creation for me. I'm stuck at home, so I may as well make a load of courses for you guys. So yeah, tongue blocking and bending courses coming out soon. So let me see. Michael says sometimes the harp is the problem. Yeah, that's very true. Sometimes the harp is the problem. So we're coming up to an hour there. I think that's me for today. If you've enjoyed this Q&A, please consider sending me a tip. There is a PayPal link in the YouTube description, so you can kind of just send me something to say thank you. I've tried to get through as many of your questions as possible. I'm going to be back with some more Q&As very soon. I don't know what the next topic will be, but I'll send out an email, I think, letting you know, and hopefully you can kind of join me for that. Until then, I hope you enjoy practicing your bending. I'm just sending the PayPal link in the comments. Yeah, I think we've covered plenty of stuff there. There's lots of stuff to get your teeth into. Let me know how you're getting on, and I wish you good luck with your harmonica playing until I see you again. And maybe let me know by email topics you would like to do by the Q&A, because I'm always interested in hearing what you're interested in doing. But yeah, good luck with your bending, and I will see you again soon. Cheers.